Hello and welcome to a new weekly video. So today we are celebrating me having moved to Ireland 10 years ago. A few days ago it was 10 years exactly, and I figured I would do a video to go along with this theme. So this is how it's going to work. I have picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 topics, and I will tell you my experience in each country with them, and in the end which one I prefer for that area, if I can pick one, because a lot of them you will find out that I like some things in one, some things in another, and I kind of need a mix of the two. But some of the topics I feel like I need to do a disclaimer for. I will be talking about religion in this video. I will be talking about social things in both countries. These are a reflection about my personal experience. I don't feel like they are a true reflection of the country as a whole or every single person in this country. And please take this as a fun video. I am not judging anything at all in there. I'm just talking about my personal experience. So let's keep it fun, please. So the first thing is the language. And by that I mean accents. I moved to Ireland and I had studied English at university. I had a degree in English. I had been studying it for many years, and I was convinced my English was really good until I arrived in Dublin and some man at the train station was talking to me and I could not even single a word out in a sentence. I just could not understand him at all. I didn't even have a clue about what he was even trying to talk about. That was my first encounter with the Dublin accent. After about a week in Dublin, I started to really get, oh, this is how you pronounce this and that and that, and then it was fine. I have no issue with it now. I was confronted to accents a lot in university because some of my teachers were from different English-speaking countries, but a lot of them were either American, I had a Canadian one, an Australian one, so it was all I had an Irish teacher, but she didn't have a very strong accent, but I thought she did at the time, and then I moved here. So then I met James, who was from the north of Ireland, and there it was another what again. So language wise, I do feel like English overall, well, if I was not a native speaker in any of those languages, I do feel like English is far easier than French to learn, and I'm so glad French is my first language, because I would have absolutely hated to have to learn this language. Even though I love languages, it is a nightmare to learn, really. I can see James going through the learning process of it and asking me, why is it like that? And there's not a rule for every single thing. So yeah, language, I would pick English over French. The next subject is religion, and this is quite a big one, and I feel like I need to explain to you my state of mind when I moved to Ireland about religion. France is what we call a laïc country, which technically means that it doesn't have defined religion for the whole country, but you are not allowed, for example, in schools or in most workplaces, to display your religion in any form. So you can have any religion you want, but for example, you can't wear a cross, or you can't wear a veil. That's why there have been so many issues with the headscarf and all that in France. So I grew up with not being able to display it, you know. I don't personally have a religion. I've never had one. My parents made the choice that they would let me choose one if I wanted to later on, and they wouldn't pick for me, which I really appreciate. But I still don't feel the need to have one, so this is where I am. But my views on religion when I arrived here were very different to what they are now. My only confrontation to having a strong religious view before in my life was from people who would be quite extremists, and I am talking about any religion there. I'm not pinpointing anybody, and I'm not talking about extremists as in terrorists and all that. This actually did not, it was not very present in France yet. Unfortunately it is now, but whenever I was living there it was there, but not as much as now. So the only time I've been really confronted to it was from people who are very preachy in, you know, no matter what the religion was, and this is something I absolutely hate, and I still do. To me it is something that is very private, and you are welcome to do anything you want with your beliefs, but I don't like it when people start to impose their beliefs on other people. That's basically the only thing I don't like. But at the time, to me, it was only creating issues. So I was more, I guess I was more an atheist than an agnostic person. And I came here and was confronting to religion, which I was expecting, you know, moving to Northern Ireland and knowing all the history of the country. I knew this is something I would be confronted to, but what surprised me, and this is what I think is really good, is that it changed my view on religion as a whole, or religions as a whole. And this happened, it started to happen with a very precise thing. Is I used to work in Starbucks, and there was a girl who used to go out every Friday, Saturday and Sunday night, probably, was really like a party girl, but she would always go to church on Sunday morning. And to me, those were two things that just did not match at all, because the only people I had seen who would be practicing their religion really strongly would be either old people or people who are in very extreme families, like for people of my generation. So it really surprised me. She was much younger than me, and she was just very openly talking about going to church, and she was proud of it. And to me, this was very strange. So I just ask questions. I do ask questions a lot to people, and I do realize that sometimes asking questions about this can make people feel uneasy. So now I know not to ask random people, but if people start to talk about it, I like to learn about things. I have friends from many different religious backgrounds, and I actually really like to learn about those different religions, because sometimes it does make you understand a lot more why people would be a certain way, you know, or would feel a certain way about things. I think in many ways, especially in countries like here, which are quite religious, religion kind of morphs into social life a lot. So yeah, I just find it interesting to understand the background of it. The way it has changed things for me is that I realized that being religious doesn't mean you're old or you're old-fashioned. It doesn't mean you have very extreme ideas. It means that it is something that brings something to you, and I am glad that moving here has opened my eyes about it. Now, I still don't feel religious myself, and I probably will never do, but at least now I can appreciate the fact that some people do, and it makes them very happy, and I'm happy that they are happy, if you know what I mean. So I would like for that a happy medium between the two. I think that France can be sometimes very extreme in the fact that the laïc side of things sometimes make it, I can understand how it would make some people feel very uneasy and very uncomfortable not be able to practicing something that they believe strongly in. But at the same time, sometimes it's here, it can be a little bit too much, and I feel like a happy medium between the two would be great. So if you want any more videos about that, more in depth, I would be happy to do it, although I do feel like it can be a very controversial subject, but I didn't feel right to avoid it in this video because it's very real. The next one is the climate, which is extremely different from one to the other. Now, I have to mention something, is that I moved from the south of France. So the climate in France is a very big country, so the climate varies a lot from one area to another. So I'm going to talk about the climate from where I am from to where I moved. So I moved from the south of France in a town called Toulon, which is on the French Riviera, which is on the Mediterranean coast. So it is very warm and sunny, and it rains very little, and even in the winter it doesn't get, well, I thought it was cold in the winter, and then I moved here. And I moved to a climate which is extremely wet, and I do mean extremely. It rains a lot more than it's sunny, a lot more, and when it's sunny, you can be sure that in the same day it's very rare that it doesn't rain as well. The temperatures kind of stay very similar in the, I mean, there's not big gaps in temperatures between the summer and the winter. There's not very can't really feel a change in season that much here, when in France you clearly can. So very different. So if I could pick between one or the other, I would pick living in the summer, spring and summer. No, actually no. I will pick spring and autumn. Oh, I don't know. I want autumn here. I want autumn here. Yeah. So I would pick summer and autumn in Ireland, and winter and spring in France, I think. Yeah, I would do that. I used to hate autumn, which is my next subject. I was going to do a separate thing on autumn, but I will include it into this one. I used to hate autumn because in France it's a pointless season, because it's still kind of warm, and then it's usually when it rains a lot, and it's not, there's nothing happening then. When here, autumn is really pretty because you have pretty colors, you still have some bright days. It is getting chillier, but you can put your boots on and go and walk in the mud, and there's a lot more to do in autumn here, and autumn is it's actually probably my favorite season here now, and it was a season I hated in France. So yeah, but I don't like the amount of rain here, and I don't like the amount of sun in the summer in France. So yeah, probably moving between the two countries throughout the year would be the best option. Then the next things are food, and in that I will include two of my subjects, is socializing and food. So food, I am not going to hesitate at all in that one. There's no point in me going into too much detail. I prefer the food in France by a mile. I was born and bred there. My palate is very educated to stronger tastes, so things here feel quite bland to me. And it's not an offense to, they're still nice, but they just feel bland. It's not an offense to any of the culinary skills of people around here. There are some really nice things here too, but as a whole, I like stronger flavors, and I like the variety of food in France. I like the moldy blue, gooey cheeses, and yeah, all these things. I miss the cheese so bad, so bad. I miss the bread, the bakeries. I just miss the food from France, I really do. I also do feel like it's a lot easier to have a healthier diet in France. The main reason for that is that you have access to a lot more fruit and veg there at a reasonable price. Because we live on an island, everything is imported here, so automatically it brings the prices up for anything that can be grown in this climate, which is quite a lot of things. And I do also feel like the fruit and veg doesn't smell as strongly as it would in France when you walk through a market, or even in the supermarket, where all the smells jump at you, and I love that, except when it's bad smells. I have a very strong developed sense of smell, and I go with my smell a lot for a lot of things, so that's one of the things. And then around food, the other thing is socializing. So in France, people socialize around food, when here I feel people eat and then they socialize around drinks. Because I don't drink any alcohol, and socializing around drinks usually involves alcohol and ends up with a lot of people being quite cheerful, let's say. This is something I still at times can struggle with, because when you're the only person who doesn't drink, it's not fun anymore after a certain point, and it's something I do find really difficult to handle still. And in France, people drink, they probably would have the same amount of alcohol in the end, but they would drink what they call an aperitif, which is usually a drink before the food, and then they would drink wine to go with the meals they are eating throughout the meal, so it's more spread out. The meals in France last much longer. Simple example in daily life, a lunch break in France is usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours. A lunch break here is about 40 minutes, so that alone is very different. And 40 minutes if you're lucky. Most of my jobs I had half an hour. In France, the meals, if you have a big gathering, you would be at the table for hours, when you would never see that here. And this is going to bring me on to my next subject, which is celebrating Christmas. I learned the hard way, not the hard way, but for some reason, the first time I spent Christmas here with James's family, I expected it, and this is not just their family, you know, it's in general, it seems to be quite the normal thing. The dinner itself, I was expecting it, like Christmas dinner in France would last hours, and now it's probably would be the longest dinner of the year. But there, everybody, in half an hour, everybody was finished, and I was like, oh my god, this is done. What's going on? I was so surprised, and I don't know why, because I knew that people were not socializing around food. I knew that, but for some reason it still surprised me. The first thing, so Christmas, celebrating Christmas, they are very different in France and here. In France, we would celebrate on Christmas Eve. We would have one dinner. I'm once again talking about my region. There are some variations depending on region in France, but I'm talking about how in my region we celebrate it. So we celebrate on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So we usually have two big dinners, one big dinner on Christmas Eve, one big dinner on Christmas Day. Here on Christmas Eve, I found out that most people have a takeaway, which I thought the first time, oh my god, this is so sad. This is so sad. This can't happen. It's not possible. So I find that a lot of people have a takeaway, they go to mass and then they watch some TV. And to me, that was just, I was devastated the first time. I have to admit, this is what, to me, this was devastating. And then I got used to it, and I found out that there was another thing the day after Christmas that was called Boxing Day, where usually you watch TV, you have leftovers, and it's kind of a continuation of Christmas, and it's actually quite nice. But I didn't know about that whenever I found out about the lack of Christmas Eve celebration. So after I found that out, I was like, all right, okay, it's not too bad. You still get 2 days to celebrate, kind of. So food-wise, very different again. I have to say, I just prefer Christmas in France a lot more. I prefer Christmas itself in France and the food for Christmas in France, but the one thing that people here know how to do is the lead up to Christmas, which is something I love. It's a lot easier here to find things to do before Christmas, like there's a lot of more Christmas markets organized and things to do with the children, to go and see Santa's grotto, and I don't know, they know how to bring the Christmas spirit here, when I feel like in France, and it's maybe because of where I'm from, I don't know, but I do feel like in France they need a bit more Christmas spirit in there. You have like the Christmas music playing everywhere and all that, and I just love that. So I would take the lead up to Christmas here and Christmas itself in France. Trying to go through my list there to see what I've done. Then there's 3 more things which I will go through. One will be very quick. School and university. Main differences are school hours in France are much longer. You go to school now. This is currently changing, so I'm going to talk about what I have done. I used to go to preschool and primary school. So you start at 3 like when you were 3, and you were going then from 8:30 till 4:30. And the same all the way through primary school. So when we were about 11, 8:30 till 4:30, we were going to school on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, and then on Saturday morning from 8:30 till 11:30. And then I went to junior high school, where I was going from 8 till 5, Monday to Friday, but on Wednesday we had the afternoon off, because that's usually where your extracurricular activities are. And then senior high school, we had Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday from 8 till sometimes 6, and then Wednesday morning from 8 till 12, and Saturday morning from 8 till 12, which was a lot of hours. University varies a lot depending on what you're studying, so hours are very different here. From what I know in our area, children go to school from about 4 and from 4 years old, and they go straight to primary school, where they are going to school from roughly 9 till 2, and then from secondary school it's usually 9 till 3. And university, I'm sure, varies a lot after that, and I haven't got to that yet, so I don't know. The big difference though is that here anyway we have religious studies included in the curriculum, when in France that's actually forbidden. And then for university in France is free, and here it is extremely expensive. So James and I are often joking that it would be great if the boys wanted to go and study in France for their degrees or whatever they want to do, if they want to do some, because it would cost us a lot less money. So that's the main differences, I would say. For school itself, I don't actually have a preference, to be honest. I did like going to school for long days. I didn't really mind. The Saturday morning though, that's a no-no, so I would probably prefer as a child school here, and for university definitely in France, because you can study for free, so that's great. And then the last thing is fashion and how people dress in general. So this is going to be a very easy answer, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about France, but here, being a plus size woman, I struggled in France to find clothes that fitted me. I ended up having to make my clothes a lot. I also cannot find any women's shoes in my size because they stop as a size 7 for UK sizes. Sometimes you're lucky enough you can find an 8, sometimes it's very limited, when here you can find an 8 in any shape of shoe. I am a size 8 and it was very frustrating in France, and I ended up having to wear men's shoes a lot because of that. When I don't feel like I have gigantic feet, I have quite big feet, but they're not that gigantic really. Clothes wise, plus size clothes in France is starting to progress, I have to say, but it's very difficult to find anything that can fit you in France if you are above a size 14. Like 14 would be the maximum size in a lot of shops, and there are not many plus size options, and the one that you have are usually very frumpy or old-fashioned, or yeah, and I don't like that. I don't think it's fair. When here it's very, like, at the moment I'm a size 20, and I find that it's very easy to find clothes. Like, a lot of ranges, of normal ranges, go up to that size, so it's a lot easier to find clothes here, and they are the same clothes that slimmer people can wear too. You don't have to wear frumpy ones because you're bigger. The other thing is that I feel like in France people will judge you a lot on how you look, and a lot on what you're dressing, you know, what you're wearing as clothes wise, and I'm somebody who has never followed fashion. It doesn't interest me. I don't believe in fashion in a way, because I don't think you can be fashionable and enhance your features all the time, if that makes sense. I am somebody who doesn't have a fashion type of body. I have very wide hips, and my lower half is, let's say, very Mediterranean, and most fashiony type of things are for straight people, which I am clearly not, so fashion and me are not friends. But I find that here, no matter how I dress, people, it's not the first thing people look at. I don't feel like people are looking me up and down no matter what I'm wearing. I also found that it's okay here to go to the shops in your pajamas. Not that I'm doing it myself, but I have seen a lot of people go to the supermarket in their pajamas and slippers and bathrobes, and people were actually not even looking at them. Like, if it was, I actually was the one staring there. It's my French side coming out, but I just found it really strange. It's like, oh god, they are in their pajamas. This is really weird. But yeah, it's actually a thing here apparently, and do you know what, the way I see things is that people should be not be judged by what they want to wear, and they should feel comfortable wearing what they want. This is really how I would like things to really be. It's not that, you know, it's not like that to that extent, but if I compare the two, here is definitely far better for this. So yeah, I feel like I've covered quite a lot of subjects. It's probably going to be a very weird video to watch. I have no idea. I've been talking for ages, so I don't know how it will look once it's edited, but I hope it taught you a lot about how I saw the difference in the two countries. And yeah, that it was interesting. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them down below. If you are from another country, or even from one of these two countries, and you found something even more different in your own country, please write it down below, because I, as I said, love to learn about religions, countries, everything. I'm very knowledge hungry, if this makes sense. I love to learn stuff all the time, no matter what they are. I just love to learn all the time. So feel free to teach me. Don't preach, teach. That's going to be my thing. So yes, feel free to share your own experience about things like that with me in the comments, and write any questions you may have. I will see you next week for another video, and I hope you have a lovely week. Bye.